All right, welcome back to Just Another Solar Podcast with Luke Beattie, that's me, and Karl Jensen. G'day, Karl.
Luke, how you going?
Good. What's going on?
Well, I'm a married man again.
Yeah, congratulations.
All very exciting, went well.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, you got married.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Congrats, man. That's so good.
Yeah, that's good. And we've got Jess MacPherson. How are you, Jess?
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't stop, does it? No, just, same old. Everyone wants a battery.
And industry legend Nigel Morris. Where in the world are you, Nige?
Ni hao, everyone. I'm sitting in the foyer of a hotel in Guangzhou.
Nice. I'm also remote. I'm at the Virgin Lounge at Sydney Airport. So I flew in on the red eye last night and I'm flying out at 6:30 p.m. So a bit of a rock star one there. Now, guys, all energy has just been and gone. It came up to us so quickly. It was a whole lot of excitement. I just want to know, what was the thing that stood out to you most at the show?
I think SunGrow had a stand that would probably have cost them $500,000. That was pretty awesome. At the end of the day, I'm always blown away how much money the industry spends. I know what our little stand cost. And if I look at the other stands that are much bigger, I go, wow, there's been a power of money spent here. So, congratulations to all the manufacturers and wholesalers that spent the money and put on such an amazing event.
And the quality of stands was amazing. Like, there was really cool stuff on there. It was a really high presentation. As I mentioned in the last episode, I'd been at a mining show, IMARC in Sydney, the week before. And as much as you have big companies there was nowhere near the sophistication and the glitz and all the stuff that we had at All Energy. And it also filled that whole hall. Remember the days when it was it wasn't half the hall and you had the Waste Expo next door and it got bigger and bigger.
They were sequestered off, weren't they?
That's right. The Waste Expo has been moved because we fill the whole hall. Lots of batteries. Jess, what stood out to you?
Yeah, definitely lots of batteries. And I think a lot of batteries that I worry about them keeping up with the scale of demand. There's a lot of what I would call sort of maybe average size or sizing limitations, and that'll improve over time. There's a lot of new people getting into the market as well, so it makes sense to start small and scale up. Honestly, I think my highlight actually is we do a fair bit of SunGrow, and they have a mini gateway coming out, and that is going to reduce a shit ton of cable, way less cable run to go back and forth, which I'm actually very excited about. So aside from, all the Q5 promises, that's something that's quite tangible and exciting.
Still got to pay for it in the inverter though.
Come on, mate. It's DC coupled. You should be all over it.
No, I'm saying you still got to pay for that transfer in the inverter. It's not like you're buying an inverter that doesn't have that functionality, so you end up having to pay for it twice.
I guess I'm just talking about the fact that to do backup, we have to cable all, say the subboard. We're putting it in the garage. Meter boxes on the other side of the house. We're running back and forth for that, and it's it's just a lot of cable. It's a lot of muck around. So I'm excited to cut down one thing off of the installers list.
All that hardware is built into the inverter, and that's expensive, right? Other manufacturers have taken it out of their inverter and put it in a backup box, which costs $600 or $700. So if it's in the inverter, and then you have to spend another $600 or $700 to buy a battery, or $1,500 to buy a backup box on top.
Well, we have no idea what it's going to cost, but right now, if it's right next to the switchboard, I save cost.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Ideal. But, other applications pick different gear.
All right, Nige.
The people. Seeing all the people, that was the best bit. There was, plenty of functions. I, of course, had a different view on it this year. Being with the Smart Energy Council, it was a different perspective on that show to being on the booth. It was pretty nice being not on a booth, I have to say, looking at the traffic there. I went,
Amen.
That looks like hard work. But we were very, very busy, lots of meetings, but seeing lots of old faces, meeting lots of new faces, that was the highlight for me. It was really good.
I agree with you 100%, Nige. It was all about the people. I felt great to see. And it's really cool to see those people that you've known for a decade or more, and you've seen the progression of their careers and you see where they end up. And, of course, there was Kathleen Ryan, had her farewell, and that was her swan song, and she won an award. Lauren Seconti won a Solar Cutters Award, which is someone who is doing so much. She did so well. And the other cool thing was not even a functioning piece of kit. It was on the Tesla stand. It was the robot. and it was a dummy. Did you guys see that?
From afar.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. So, Nigel, you're over there in China. You've been there for how long? And do you want to give us a summary of what you've done so far?
Sure. Been here for 3 days so far. Got a few more days to go. Short version is we're over here for two purposes. Number one, good, we invited actually people from all around the world. So it's their 15th birthday. And so it's actually more like a global solar conference, which has been really cool. They had presentations from, the Philippines and Africa and Australia and everywhere else on day one. So it was like a mini global solar conference. Their founder spoke, and then of course we visited most of their facilities, their battery facilities, large-scale facilities. We got to see a V2G control room that just blew my mind, and a VPP control room that blew my mind, and watching them do multi-megawatts, literally, I think it was 30 meg of VPP under control, and then and V2G at all the public, a bunch of public charging stations in Guangzhou, and then they took us down to the charging stations and explained that they just send a signal through an app, and people with EVs can hack down to the charging station, discharge their car, and make a few bucks. So seeing all of this.
How does that work? They get like
room.
an alert on their phone or something similar, and it says
Exactly.
You set which price is enough for you to drive down to the charger.
Well, no, they'll send you a signal on the app that says, hey, in the next hour, the price is going to be X. It's kind of like the way Amber works right now with your VPP stuff, but they do it via V2G as well. Right. So they'll tell you what the price is. If you're nearby, drop in, and there's well, I think they said there was about 30 or 40 charging stations that are set up with this capability now. And so it was, there were trucks there, not just cars, there were trucks. So wow. It was really, I mean, that's the whole thing everyone's always said about China. You come here and you go, you've stepped into the future, highlighted by the electronic. To me, I've never sat on an electronic toilet before, but that was a first for me.
Did you try the bidet? Did you try the bidet?
Did you get the swirl? Did you get the swirl, Nigel? And then you get the blow to blow dry.
The blower.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a whole lot of new stuff.
I don't know how much I want to hear about this.
Just coming back to the V2G, it really interests me. So that's a public V2G station, but we know that there's V2G capability in some of the chargers going into homes. So I imagine some of that's going to be automated in the future.
Yeah, it is. And in fact, they're rolling it out all over the place. I mean, this is where China, fortunately, with the benefit of more state control, means that they can actually do some of this stuff much, much quicker, and they can just lay the regulations and the policy and say, it's going to happen, go make it happen. And so, it's quite remarkable to see the benefit of that central control, because things can happen so fast, fast. And
I'm so astounded by trucks showing up, because, people are so nervous about even having like a ute, right? Like an electric ute in Australia, in terms of like the, range anxiety, as it were. And here we have people going and dumping power into the grid to make a few bucks off of the spot price. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, everyone I know who's been to China has said, the number of EVs on the road will just blow your mind. And it's true. I mean, you just literally, I stood out in front of the hotel the first day and just went, I haven't seen a petrol car. Like, it was peak.
It's the number plates, right? Like the number plates are different colours. Is that right? You could be right, Jess. You may be teaching me something. I'll have to ask someone. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, the number of EVs are remarkable.
The green number plate covers both hybrids and battery electric vehicles, so it's difficult to pick out the full electric cars. Sure. But there's still plenty of S classes rolling around, Nigel.
Very cool. So we look forward to an update on the rest of your China trip. Now, Jess, we've got to speak to one of our friends here, George from Rest Energy in Tassie, the Tassie Solar Man, a very good friend of the show, and great to catch up with George, Rowena and Alfie. at All Energy. Really great to see those guys. But we need to clarify something from previous episodes.
Yes, yeah, because we were talking a bit about the involvement they had with SIG on these connection points, and I think what we didn't make clear, probably didn't even really realize at the time, is that George had taken them to see a few of his sites, but he'd also taken them to sites that weren't his, that were problematic, sort of helping them out, which, like, of course, George is such a legend. Like, of course, he put his hand up for that. And yeah, like, out of his own time and effort to really make sure that this was happening as it should. I think, that's something to really commend. So it was good to chat to him about it at the time, at All Energy, when we were all face to face. And get a bit of a better understanding as to what had happened there. And good on George.
Yeah, so clarification, it's not like George has got all these installs that have gone terribly. It's just the engineers came out and George has volunteered to go out there, and there's a site or two that were his that needed, they went and checked it out, but there were other sites that were problematic that weren't George's, and he went out with the SIG crew. And once again, I think we need to point out that, for a manufacturer to send engineers into Tasmania to go out to site, I think it needs to be applauded wherever you fall, because SIG has the largest share of the residential market currently. So you end up, you're either in the SIG camp and you love them, or you're there throwing rocks at them. I think everyone can agree that that's really good service and a good sign to the, to the market that they're doing the right thing. So moving it along though, solar share, Nige.
Yeah, this one's a really, really interesting one. Hey, and I'm going to say, so for those who've been living under a rock, the government came out and said they're going to force retailers to offer 3 hours a day of free electricity. It's not all states and it's not all jurisdictions, and it's not coming into effect until next year. So this is kind of like what Karl talks a lot about OVO with their free energy plans, very similar to that. So lots of people have highlighted, well, hang on, this has been going for some time. There are other plans out there. Online, there's been a really interesting debate, and it's like 50% hate it and 50% love it. I'm seeing people say, this is going to kill the solar industry and this is going to stop people buying solar and blah, blah, blah. I'm of the view that firstly, it's an incredibly clever bit of politics by the government, because what it does is it takes all the benefits of excess solar in the middle of the day and shares it with people who don't have solar. So politically, it's an extremely clever move. That also puts the kibosh on the coalition criticising, the cost of energy in Australia, because now there's some free electricity. Internationally, this has been talked about while I've been here in China, and they're going, oh my God, look what Australia's doing. Firstly, you've literally taken the world by storm with batteries after doing it with solar. Now you're giving all that free power away to other people who can't put solar on. So I just think it's wonderful, wonderful news. And I don't think it's going to make a difference at all to the number of solar and battery systems going in. In fact, I think it's actually going to help. And I think the difference to the economics is in the noise. I don't think people crunch the numbers on the economics that much. If you're saving money, you're saving money.
Yeah. But it's also teaching.
I agree with you, Nigel.
It's also teaching, the wider market and the public to understand that, the cost of generation of electricity varies, and people will get solar and they may go with OVO or Amber or someone similar, and then they get an understanding that if I use energy at this part of the day, then I might get it free, or the price might be negative, and then during the peak times it's going to cost me more. This has been like a loudspeaker over all the public to say, hey, the energy is actually free at this point of the day. It's actually negative pricing. So I think as an education piece for everyone, even just for that alone, it's a winner.
What a price signal. They've talked about price signals since I started in this industry, about trying to change people's behaviour. Oh my God, wait for the change in behaviour in this, right? I think it's fantastic. It may not last forever either. That's the other thing, right? This is arguably a transitional thing, because if the behaviour changes the way it quite possibly would, we're going to reshape the NEM. We're absolutely going to reshape the NEM. Again, we've done it with solar. We'll do it with batteries.
We're going to kill the duck.
We're going to do it this way as well.
We're going to kill the duck.
We're killing the duck, mate. Duck season. Duck
I do
season's
think
over.
Duck season,
I do
hashtag.
think, to your point though, Nige, is the economics of adding solar at the same time as adding a battery are such a no-brainer. Like that, it's been so good for so long that this doesn't change it enough to deter people away from solar. I really hope it doesn't discourage people around. Like, I hope it doesn't encourage people to undersizing their solar. That is a valid concern. But I think doing some at the same time, like, I don't know, aside from fringe cases, most of the time, you guys are there for a day anyway, at least, right? Like, the time it takes to put some panels on, it comes out in the wash with STCs. And as time progresses and STCs reduces, who knows, maybe in a few years' time we'll say something different, but at least for the future we can see. But I'm already having people asking me about it, and I think most especially what I love about it is it's pushing people towards better quality products, because now they want a battery that can charge for free off of that window in the middle of winter or whatever, that time period that they're worried about. And unless the crappier systems catch up, which great, excellent, incentivize that, they're going to want something that's good quality, that's going to do that for them. Like, that's phenomenal.
Such a good point. Now, I think we've almost made a habit of torturing our guests, because we'll have the guest always sits in the background for this little blurb at the start. And quite often, and as is the case today, we'll be talking about something that's right in their wheelhouse and their specialty. And you can see that they're just biting their tongue because we're giving our opinions and they're chomping on the bit. So today we've got a fellow podcaster, actually, but we've got Jeff Sykes from Solar Choice. He's the CEO there, and he's also a host on the EV Charging podcast. It's great to have you on board today, Jeff. How are you, mate?
All doing well, and eager to jump in, but you guys are right on the point with the comments there, so all good.
No, mate, give it to us. Give it.
So just to kick off then, we all started with our takeaways or, the key standouts from All Energy. What was yours?
Well, actually, I wasn't there this year, but Dan and Mo from my team were down there flying the flag for Solar Choice. I think they just came back and said it was bigger than ever this year and a really strong focus on batteries for obvious reasons. I think everyone's out there chasing batteries around at the moment, and all of the manufacturers are, they've all been contacting us to get their product reviews up to date, and just everyone wants to get their ducks in a row. So, yeah. That was the theme I heard, and Dan and Mo were out, shaking hands with lots of our installers. So I think everyone's on the same page.
There was a difference with those unknown batteries this year, because in previous years you'd have unknown batteries in a little 3x3 stand with a pull-up banner and maybe a demo unit, whereas this year the unknown batteries had these big, elegant stands and demos and an army of people there. It was... You can see that, I think that's an impact of the Cheap Home Batteries program, but just to show us where the battery market is. And as Nige pointed out, we are leading the world with residential batteries, and all the manufacturers are taking notice and want a part of it. So that's really cool.
I love the bit, Luke, where they go, we're number one in the UK. The UK's installed fuck all batteries, but we're number one there.
We're actually number 3 in Botswana. It's a feather in our cap. So Jeff, before we go into Solar Choice, I found it really curious on your LinkedIn profile that you didn't start in the industry in Solar Choice. You started with a passion project. So do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, that's right. My passion project, spending a couple of years in Nicaragua. But before that, I started my career at the Commonwealth Bank. Spent the best part of 10 years there. Great company to work for. They paid for me to go through my MBA, and as part of that, I had a vesting period where I had to stick with them for 2 years. And I think pretty much 2 years to the day, I handed in my resignation and packed my bags and headed off to Nicaragua. And plan at the time was just to not do any work and go down the beach and surf most days. And after a few months, I decided to buy a piece of land and build a house. Looking back, a bit of a reckless use of money, which is a bit out of character for me.
Was this on your own? Did you have a partner?
I didn't. So I actually met my wife in Nicaragua, but that was a coincidence, if you like. But yeah, just off there on my own, and took a leap of faith. Bought a parcel of land it was in the middle of absolutely nowhere, no connection to the grid, no water, it was all on a septic tank.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, not really sure. I was a younger man then, and the surf was really good there, so that was probably the main criteria.
Tracks,
But look, I've got no regrets. I still own the house. It's learned so much by building it, and honestly, one of the funnest things I've completed to date. So yeah, zero regrets. But as part of that, I needed power for the house, and as it turned out, there's pretty much no solar equipment at all in Nicaragua, so I had to get everything shipped in from the States. And as a result of having no equipment, there was no solar electricians either, so I was sitting there on YouTube learning how to wire together a 2.5 kilowatt solar system with lead acid batteries. And yeah, at some point during that process, I realized that it was actually a pretty cool little system. And when I eventually made my way back to Australia, it was my mission to find a job with a bit of purpose and something in the renewable industry to go on with, rather than crawling back to the Commonwealth Bank with my tail between my legs.
So then you ended up at Solar Choice and you're CEO there. Do you want to tell us where Solar Choice was at that point in time and also to where they are now?
Yeah, so I came back at a really lucky introduction that I had with Angus Gemmell, who's the founder of Solar Choice, and just came along at a time where he was looking to step back from the business, and I was looking for a new challenge and looking to step up. So it was good timing. That was back in 2018. The business had already had sort of 10 years running as a online comparison service for solar and battery quotes in Australia, it was one of the major players in the market. I think we still have one of the most popular websites when it comes to solar, and I was able to use some of the experience I had in terms of building customer journeys to kind of take that portal forward into the new age, building the mobile version, completing all of our product reviews, building out some of the other elements of the website, the YouTube channel to kind of evolve the business. And I think the big leaps we've made is branching out through the home electrification journey. So we now cover solar batteries, heat pumps, EV charging, aircon, and more to come. And we as well have made a big commitment in the commercial space and strata apartment space. So some of those more difficult projects, particularly in the strata space, we've got a dedicated team who help those apartment buildings go through the end-to-end journey of assessing, tendering, getting the decision through those owners' committees. So yeah, we've really evolved a lot. The number of customers going through our platform has increased tenfold over those years, as the industry's grown as well.
Fun fact, I want to give a shout out to Solar Choice, because when I started my consultancy business, Angus Gemmell said, come and share the office with us. So I actually got to know some of the Solar Choice guys in the very early days before you were there, Jeff. I think maybe we might have just crossed over towards the end. But these guys have been at it for years and years and years. And a huge shout out. You guys were wonderful to share a bit of office space with me and have me doing my weird shit in the corner. Thanks.
Hey, Nige, who don't you know in the industry? Who haven't you shared office space or broken bread with? I mean, if you put a shout out to the listeners and watchers of this, if you don't know Nige and you haven't shared an office or shared a meal or shared anything with Nige, reach out to us, all 5 of you, and we'll connect you with him.
He's pretty easy. It won't take much. Offer him a beer or something. He'll show up.
There's still a desk for you, Nigel, anytime at our office, so just let us know when you need one.
Now, of course, when people think of sites that are doing comparison sites and news sites, Solar Quotes comes up. And of course, we've had Finn Peacock on the podcast before. It's an interesting space, very dependent on SEO, I'm guessing. But the other thing, interesting conversation with Finn, was sort of when the big wave of AI was coming through. And I know AI integration seems to be changing by the week and by the day at the moment. And I'll speak to someone every other day and hear some new application or some new way it's being used. How are you guys integrating AI into your business?
I think just everywhere. You're right. Like my feeling with AI is that you either need to jump on board and use it in everything that you're doing, or you're going to get left behind, or someone else will do that and take over. So we use it in content writing, in writing code, in terms of customer interactions, in terms of providing assistance to a team in doing their daily jobs. So it's used everywhere, and I think you're right. Like we're just seeing more and more applications on almost a daily basis in terms of how it can help us. I think it's also important to remember that it's imperfect at this stage. So there is areas where we need to make sure that we're providing our own lens and quality checking, particularly in terms of the advice that goes to consumers and things like that.
I've heard heard it described as a syncophatic bias, which means that if it has a gap in information or facts, it will put something in there that really tickles your brain and sounds believable. So it joins the dots there with something that sounds good.
Yeah, well, I've definitely seen it make leaps of faith and fill in those gaps in ways that just aren't correct. So, yeah, it is important to fact check everything. But I mean, at the same time, if someone in our team was writing an article, we'd be fact checking that as well. So it's
and what's with all the hyphens in ChatGPT? It uses so many hyphens. As soon as I see like an email from someone with
or like
excessive
a bunch of
hyphens
emojis
or emojis, yeah, exactly.
It's strange what it's normal formatting or where that comes from, because it seems abnormal, and you'd think it would just try and fit in.
loves a dot point list as well.
Yeah. For those going back to the all energy thing at the Awise event, the day before the show started, I was at that, and there was a terrific shout out to the terrific girls at Awise, but a terrific presentation and keynote by an AI specialist, actually, which was really enlightening. And she took us on this journey of how to use and the logic behind what AI does. It was really, really valuable. So, if you're not in the loop on it, reach out to the Wise people and they can connect you to this lady's name who I forget. Forgive me.
Very good.
Nothing like name dropping Nigel and then forgetting their name.
Now, Jeff, one of the other things I wanted to ask you about as a site and a business that generates leads, since the Cheap Home Batteries program was announced until now, I'm sure there's been a spike in demand. What sort of trends are you guys seeing, both in inquiries but also in what the market is doing on the other side?
Yeah, I think our numbers are probably a month ahead of some of the CER numbers or SunWiz's numbers, because we see, when customers are just out there getting quotes and, prior to that sort of 2 or 3 week decision-making process. But yeah, it's been such a stark increase in leads from basically the 2nd of May when Labor were voted back in. You can see a big jump in customer volumes that spiked again on the 1st of July. And what I was assuming or expecting to see based on, sort of previous grant announcements is like that early wave of customers that then recedes in 2 or 3 weeks as you get through that initial band of demand. But that's really not been the case with the federal battery rebate. We're still today doing the numbers that we were doing in early July. And that to me suggests that, we're probably seeing a step change in demand that, I think it's been spoken about probably on your podcast and in the media that batteries are now affordable for a larger percentage than were before, and make sense, on a payback period and on all those things that people were waiting on the fences for. And we've got, potentially 2 or 3 million batteries to install over the next 5 years. And the numbers that we're doing are large, but they're nowhere near sort of chipping off a material percentage of that market demand. So I think we're expecting, strong customer numbers and flow to continue in the years to come, which I think is really exciting for all of the industry, all of our partners, all those people who put in the hard work when it was, like early January, February this year, the market was very quiet. So, it's the classic ups and downs of the solar coaster.
I heard a really interesting number at All Energy from the CER, which said that 100 new installers were registering to be appropriately qualified to install batteries. So I guess, especially in talking to people like Solar Quotes before, it's important to have lead quality, which we could probably go into as well. But in terms of installer quality and keeping the pool of people that you're recommending, how are you guys handling that at the moment?
Yeah, so we have a pretty strict vetting process. I would say stricter than most, probably similar to Solar Quotes. We look at, we kind of start with a company's trading history. We don't want to be recommending our customers to anyone really in the first 12 months. We've kind of discovered in that first 12 months, most installation companies work out the kinks in terms of getting their processes set up, possibly.
Or maybe they don't, right?
Yeah, or they don't, or they go out of business. That's right, Jess. So that's the minimum bar. We check their accreditations with NetCC, the SAA, make sure they're accredited.
Is NetCC required for you guys?
Yeah, so we require them to either be NetCC or we make an exception for companies that are run by an SAA accredited installer. So if you have those companies where it's an installer, maybe they're doing a bit of subcontract work and they want to branch out and do some of their own quotes, we feel that those companies are well accredited and generally get pretty good customer outcomes as well. We also have the benefit through Solar Choice because we provide customers with an online comparison. Our partners log into our portal, they put the pricing and quote information into our tool, so we can quickly screen out some of those installers that are, let's say, going for those 2999 style offers or using products that we don't recommend. We've got a pretty clear guide on our website in terms of what products we'll back and what we won't, and so it doesn't really make sense for someone to come in and try and sell cheap products through the Solar Choice website because they'll be going up against our own reviews that kind of steer customers away from them. So that's another check, and then the final thing is we just go through their customer reviews. So that's both historic, and as soon as an installer comes onto our platform, we ask every customer for a review, and we pretty much have a zero tolerance policy for any negative reviews. Either the installer has to rectify that specific customer's problem, or we just take them off the network.
The reason why I love the comparison tool is that all of the good solar Facebook pages these days have become Compare My Quote, or have become Rate My Quote.
Aren't they just? It's annoying.
Yeah, particularly like the Me page.
Yeah.
The Me page is filled with so much good information and posts and stuff, and it's just been inundated with, I've got this quote, give me your comments. And so many of them are almost cookie cutter. It's the same products, and it's people asking the same questions about the same products and same companies. Yeah, it's a shame. So maybe they need to direct to somewhere like Solar Choice, just so they can free up the bandwidth.
It's a bit scary when you look at your own gear and you're like, well, I've got $35,000 worth of gear on my house. By getting past it. So when I see $35,000 quotes, I say, hey, look, there's no getting past it. You need to be able to make this thing pay you $6,000 a year. And for it to pay you $6,000 a year, you've got to get off petrol as well as gas. It means you've got to have an EV. So we're all, I'm thinking that once you've bought a battery that's way too big for your needs, that you can't charge in winter, you're probably going to say, fuck, I better buy an EV as well. So with a bit of luck, this mass is self-accelerating, and we do drive other parts of the electrification by having the battery there.
Now, that's a really good springboard because, Jeff, you have the EV Charging podcast. Do you want to just give a quick plug for that and then you can jump into that topic?
Yeah, sure. So we started the EV Charging podcast earlier this year. We've got about 13 episodes up there. It's hosted by me and Dan Carson, who also works for Solar Choice, but he's an old friend of mine from school. Not really any commercial intent for the podcast. It's sponsored by Solar Choice because we pay all the bills, but we just wanted to get out there and chat with some of the EV charging companies. So we've spoken with like the founder of JetCharge, Tim Washington, the founder of EV, Paul Fox, a lot of the major EV charging companies in Australia. We kind of go through their backstory, but talk about some of these interesting topics like Nigel was covering earlier on vehicle to grid. Is one of the big ones, and autonomous driving. So yeah, I think it's just a space that we found really exciting and wanted to learn ourselves more in that, and have used the podcast as a vehicle to do so. Dan was saying that at All Energy there was a lot of people tapping him on the shoulder and saying, yeah, thanks for putting the podcast out there. So it's nice to see that we're gaining a bit of traction.
That's awesome, man. I reckon the greatest benefit you get from hosting a podcast is learning, because you get the guests in, you have the conversations. And if you look at a course, like if you want to do a diploma, a degree, an apprenticeship, a certificate, whatever you do, it comes down to hours that you're learning. And if you look at, I think we're up to about 96, thereabouts. So give or take around 50 minutes per episode. That's a lot of time to spend in there with experts who know a lot more than what I do. And I think, yeah, just hosting a podcast, asking questions has been a really cool tool to do it. So obviously you're experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, really enjoyable. And you're right, like a really good quality way to learn and also just make industry connections. You know, it turns out by running an EV charging podcast, there isn't many other EV charging podcasts out there. So when we went and tried to speak to the founder of some of these companies, they hadn't been asked before. So we were pretty lucky in getting a good list of people to join the podcast. And it's been a really fun journey. Would encourage anyone to give it a crack. Sometimes it feels like you're going through all the process and speaking out there to no one on the other end, but it all happens slowly over time, as I'm sure you guys are aware.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, coming up in Melbourne is the Everything Electric show. So I think you're going to be there, Jeff. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got a little stall there, and Dan and I will be speaking at a few sessions. We're working together with Fully Charged and the team behind Everything Electric on a few different avenues. We're collaborating on putting some content out on the YouTube channel, hopefully later in the year as well. And they started as, like an EV conference, but have ambitions to branch out into home electrification and these spaces that we operate in. So I think in the future, they have the potential to go on and rival an All Energy. I think what's really interesting is that a high percentage of their audience is end consumers. So it's people out there wanting to do test drives. Like a lot of these conferences that we end up at are, it's all the same installers and manufacturers and distributors. But I think it creates a nice dynamic having, end consumers there as well to talk to and throw ideas off.
And it's just breaking down those walls too. We used to have solar conferences that had some batteries there, and then it was solar inverters, batteries, and then it was solar inverters, batteries, heat pumps. And now it seems we're certainly an electrification industry. It sounds like they're working in from the other side, so on the B2C side, the EV side, and working back towards where we are. So really cool. And also the Fully Charged podcast, which was founded by Robert Llewellyn, who I know from Red Dwarf as Crichton. So from back in the day as a nerd.
Yeah, I remember him as well from when I was a teenager on the TV. So it's awesome that he's kind of the founder and still kind of the man behind the scenes of Fully Charged in these conferences. And there's a little bit of a philanthropic lens to it. They're not out there trying to drive a huge profit margin, or sort of that some of these other conferences have that as a stronger lens. I think they're really out there trying to influence people in the industry towards electric vehicles primarily, and also like through to sustainable products through home electrification. So all power to them, and hopefully their conferences continue to build.
Now, Jess, as someone on the coalface of retailing solar and batteries and so forth, how do you introduce electrification to your customers?
Look, I mean, I think it's one of those ones where, especially when you're trying to talk about getting the most out of a system, that's really where it's coming in, in terms of like wanting a customer to get the most value out of the system. And I think as well, when people are making these sorts of investments, a lot of the time it starts as I want to save money. I'm stressed about my bills. I've got anxiety about my quarterly electricity bill. But maybe my favorite part of my job is when it can get to a point where people are excited to use electricity. People are like looking forward to turning things on. Like that's the good bit.
Is that the Karl Jensen effect?
Well, maybe, but I think as well, like what's so beautiful about every house is different, right? What I recommend to you versus what I'd recommend to your neighbor should be a bit different. Is that, like, for some people, they just want to know that they could be in a 4-day blackout and not have to stress about it. And, fine, that happens here or there. But most people just want to know that they are going to be able to turn their aircon on and not worry about it. Like, when it boils down to the nitty gritty of it. And I suppose you're asking a lot of people, you're asking a lot of trust to spend all of this money. And actually, shout out to Jake from Penrith Solar. He said my favorite quote that I think I've ever heard in the industry, which was that the average solar system lasts longer than the average marriage. And so when you're choosing your retailer, your installer, it's kind of like choosing like your life partner. It should be that kind of decision.
We need to get a response from Karl for that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Look, I think that you're about 20 something years in between marriages. You marry the first one, it lasts for however long it lasts for, and then there's a gap where you might spend a number of years with that person before you actually get married again.
You guys are making me very pessimistic about my engagement, but that's okay.
I'm at 23 years and I haven't had a solar system last for 23 years, so he's wrong.
How many times does an inverter get changed over? Like a 10-year-old system has had 2 inverter change, or maybe a 12-year-old system has had 2 inverter changeovers on average, right? Like, these days we have better products, they last longer for sure. But I think
do they?
Well,
that's a
I
good
don't
question,
know.
because the time hasn't passed yet. So
sure,
the question
great.
is, will that gear actually last longer? And I think that there's a whole heap of gear that won't.
Well,
particularly
that's
with
even
hybrids, right?
Well, that's the perfect example, right? Is that if something does go awry, and especially with a hybrid inverter, that's the linchpin of your whole system, right?
It's connected to the grid 24/7 instead of half.
It's doing a lot of work.
So,
100%. And
Shifting
without
a lot more
it,
power.
nothing's happening. Yeah, definitely.
First batch of inverters were 2 kilowatts. Now 10 kilowatts is, dime a dozen. Start with a 10, go up from there.
Unless you're getting a 5 kilowatt inverter with 40 kilowatt hours of storage, of course.
Yeah. So, Jeff,
I tease.
Let's get your take on the correlation between solar systems and marriages.
Well, yeah, I'm getting the idea that the next vertical we add to the quote comparison tool should be life partners. Or
Is there
maybe
a comparison
maybe a
tool?
partnership with Tinder?
No, that'd be great. You've got a comparison tool. I'm thinking of proposing to X, Y, and Z, and then you
It
get
is a proposal.
Yeah, then you get maybe it is Tinder. Who knows?
I'm going to throw a couple in because the quote of this trip actually was from Daniel, the CEO of Goodwe, who made a terrific speech the other day about a zero carbon house that we visited that was just amazing. Solar tiles on the roof and everything you could possibly imagine. And he said they work out that this house will actually extend your life, right? It'll be healthier. It reduces emissions. And they've sort of gone, this is going to make you live longer. And so if there's anything that's good for, life and marriage and everything else, that was a cracker quote, I thought. And I also want to say that I was chatting with Claire about our solar system that's going in next week actually, and there was a blackout nearby, and she said, "Oh, it's a shame, we might going to lose power." I said, "Not in a week, honey." And she didn't realise that we were going to get blackout support, and she went, "No way, that's so cool, because so many of us work from home." So, it's been good for my marriage so far.
Look, I've got to jump in here. The most important part is being able to turn the dishwasher on wherever the fuck you want. That's it. It's the dishwasher.
The dishwasher, not the aircon, not the
It's all
something
about
a
the
bit
dishwasher.
heavier.
It's all about the dishwasher. Yeah,
You can put a timer on your dishwasher, Karl.
I know that.
Little
but,
delay.
Just ask my ex-wife.
I guess just to lead back into Jeff and like what you were saying before, riding the ship, that like in terms of quality of lead, how do you guys manage? And it must be really difficult for you to manage, and you're trying to sell a product which is high quality leads. So like SEO and blogs and things like that. Like you can do so much, but what are you doing, especially at the moment?
Yeah, so it's such a nuanced question. I feel like I've spent most of the last 7 or 8 years working out how to maintain the quality of our leads and the different levers and things that we can do to prime a customer as they go through our journey, so that they're like really excited to get that phone call from an installer. The truth of it is, like, the customers that use our website, read our education, use our calculators, and then go through the portal, they are the best leads. And the leads that aren't as good are the ones that you buy through Google Ads, through the clicks. And if you look at most of the lead generation style companies out there, I think most of them rely 90% plus on purchase customers through those pay-per-click portals. So I think we spend most of our time trying to build out these tools so that we can educate a customer, empower them to make a really well-informed decision. And so when they pick up the phone to the installer, they've already loaded with 3 or 4 questions that they want to ask and they want to get to the bottom of. There's other things like getting rid of spam and the algorithms that we've built to detect customers that are either going to be tie kickers or that are not genuine customers,
or bots.
Or bots, or AI these days, or trying to get through the forms. But I think it comes down to, at a core, you just need to, I think we need to focus on education, on giving customers what they need to make a well-informed decision. And that's kind of where we focus our time.
And it was a bit of a leading question because I wanted to ask you something that's admittedly a little nasty, so I apologize. But in terms of what you're selling to a company and having that be high quality, do you feel that by blinding the quotes, which is the solar choice model, that it kind of removes all of that nuance of what a good installer is bringing to the table? Those subtle differences, and it's bringing it back to the side-by-side comparison?
Yeah, really fair question, Jess.
Sorry.
So thanks for putting me on the spot. No, look, it's not the first time I've had the question. So the alternative we have to that is basically picking the installers for the customer, which is basically what all other companies out there do. So the reason we have that intermediary step where basically a customer can browse through all of the installers that we have available in that postcode and make a selection of 3 for themselves is because it's sort of our opportunity to give a bit of power back to the customer. The reason we don't give away all of the names at that point is because we don't want them, and we know some customers will go and call 15 different companies and get 15 different quotes, and it's not fair.
But they're going to do that anyway, right?
Well, look, we don't want to facilitate that because we don't feel it's fair to installers like you, Jess, that we're introducing 15 companies. But at the same time, the power of our portal is that we can give some of that choice back to customers. So when they go through our portal, they've made a selection of 3. You're already a part of their shortlist. So if you don't get selected, maybe you don't get the lead from us, but you don't pay us for that. And, we're not forcing customers down your throat that haven't made an active selection to be a part of your company. We have made some tweaks to what they can see before to make that selection, and we rank it to begin with on customer reviews and things like that to try and encourage them not to just price shop, as we know it's a natural human tendency to do. But yeah, it's something that like we always try and strike a balance with, and I think if we look at the outcomes that installers get through our portal, most of them are pretty happy in terms of the conversion rates they're able to achieve.
That was a bloody good answer to a tough question. So that wasn't in the show notes. Good on you, Jess. Keep him on his toes. But yeah, it's a really, really good answer. I suppose it's quite a tricky thing to manage. And speaking to other lead gen sources, it seems that there's two approaches. There's one, like you say, a systematic one where you've got more quality control and you're trying to have a better streamlined customer experience. I'm currently going through the opposite side of the lead gen industry because over the years, I've added my details to lead gen sites just to see where they pop out. So I see some weird and wonderful, very, very cheap thing on socials. I'll put my details in because I want to know who's going to call me. So typically you get the qualifying call and then it pops out to a local company and you know who's the recipient of this, 2999 solar system or whatever it is. But what I'm finding now, they must have collated all the details over the years. So I'm getting calls almost every day from these lead gen call centers. Do you know that you can get the rebate scheme now? Would you like to get a quote? Would you like us to send someone out? And it's really aggressive. They don't really care.
I have so much fun with those
I
calls.
do too. I really do.
I play with them so much.
I do when I have the patience and time, but they call at the most inopportune times. But the other thing I'll note is that I'll ask them specific things. So I'll say to them, can I also get the WA battery scheme? And the last guy I had, he said explicitly, no, there's no such thing, but you can get the federal battery scheme. I said, have you got your Google in front of you, mate? Type it into your browser and do it, and then give it a moment. He clearly did, and then he just hung up. And you're like, oh, okay. So, Jeff, I take my hat off to you. You as a company who's actually trying to get good outcomes for the installers, to do a public service and for the customer's journey. But there's plenty of lead gen out there that doesn't give a rat's.
And we've had a few chats, Jeff, over the period. What do you think? Can we do an article about this? Yeah, and I've given you all of the information, and you've built some great articles about heat pump performance and that sort of stuff, which nobody else is doing. So hats off to you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Karl, for your input. Yeah, we do like to not just sit in our ivory tower and write some of this stuff, but ultimately, it's so much better if we can get boots on the ground feedback, whether it's through the Karl Jensens and the Nigel Morrises or through, customers or through our installers. So always good to fact check and get some of this information that you can't get through AI.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up shortly, Jeff, and we normally ask a personal question. So what do you get up to in your spare time?
Yeah, spare time. It's not too different to the years I spent in Nicaragua. I'm still down at the ocean, trying to get in there one way or another, whether it's swimming, dragging my 2-year-old in there with me, going for a surf. That's the main go-to. I play football for the local Byron Bay football team as well. Yeah, and just spend as much time as I can with my young family.
Maybe that's why you're such a relaxed guy. So that's really cool.
I have had a realization in the last few months that when I get really busy at work, some of those things fall away, and then the stress kind of builds in, and my performance drops away. And it's kind of when I get more busy, I need some of those pastimes a little bit more, because that's actually what enables me to mentally reset. So you got to put the 2 hours in your diary to get down on the beach at the end of the day and stick to it no matter how busy you get.
Yeah, good advice, man. Good advice. All right, before we wrap up, that's a great way. That's a mic drop. So we're going to wrap up the episode shortly. Before we do that, we'll go around for last comments, and we'll start with you, Jess.
Oh, me? So I wanted to quickly note that Tesla has come out with a bit of a rebate for systems installed next year, and it's like sort of being sold as a bit of a kicker for SDCs. Like it's about $750, and SDC drops depending on your trader and your rates or whatever. It's probably about $500. So the customer's $250 in front, so that's nice. They did acknowledge it in their email, but it has gone out to the general public, and there is some concern about customers that you might have booked in for this year trying to delay to next year to get that rebate. So I think it's just something for us to all keep in front of, because like it's $250 really difference in the end of it. Like it's probably not worth stressing about, but a customer doesn't know that. So I mean, maybe a little bit of extra work for us anyway, and brilliant for people who are already fully booked for this year and they're going to be installed next year anyway, or people you're trying to create that urgency for to fill out your calendar for next year as well. So that's pretty cool. And then my little teeny tiny thing is I'm in an article in this current issue of the Renew magazine.
Hey, come on, Jess.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Go buy it if you want. I really enjoyed the chat. I'm really proud of the article, so check it out.
Awesome. Congrats, Jess. And congrats again to Karl and Angie. Congrats on your marriage and your wedding and everything else, Jensen. Any last comments?
Everything Electric show in Melbourne next weekend, I think. Yep, next weekend. I'm volunteering for a number of different people. Don't have our own stand, but going there to help out and say good day to the punters. So this weekend, only weekend I think I've had free all year. I'm going to go to the farm and hang out with my dad.
Fantastic. All right, ni hao, Mr. Morris. Last comments?
I want to give a shout out to, actually I have to give a shout out to Goodwee. They've treated us so well and given us a fantastic trip over here. It's been really enlightening to me to see, an example of what amazing manufacturers can do. I'm on the bus at the moment on the way back for another banquet tonight. So huge shout out for all the great attention that they paid us, and to all the new friends I've made from all around the world. Thanks, Goodwee.
Gunbay.
See if you can set a world record. Set a world record, Nigel.
A world record?
Yeah. So when you're using that toilet with the little sprayer thing, all the rest of it, make sure you check it out before you flush it. And, we're looking for at least 6 foot long.
This is what the listeners come here for.
Wow.
Really. This is what...
Bidet advice.
I gotta say, Nige, it's been like those like memes you see online about, like when they say you can work from home and then you watch somebody like who's on like a bike or something and everyone else is just in their business meeting watching you or waving to people. So if you're just listening and you're not watching, if you hear like some weird little sort of laughs and things, that's just us laughing at Nige.
There you go. All right, and Jeff Sykes from Solar Choice and the EV Charging Podcast, which our listeners and watchers should go and check out as well. Thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, people, if they enjoyed listening to you there, they should check out your content online. Any last comments before we wrap up?
Yeah, like Karl, I'm looking forward to everything electric next week. Just will be great to see all our Victorian partners down there. Hopefully have maybe even sneak in a few test drives of some of these new EVs coming out on the market. I'm hoping to get in one that'll do the test drive for me. So let's see how we go.
Sounds good, mate. All right. Thanks again, Jeff. And thanks to you for watching and or listening. And we'll catch you next time.
Tired of scrambling for CPD points at the last minute? With Southwell Solar Training, you can earn all 100 points for your accreditation without leaving home and without wasting time on boring, irrelevant courses. Our online training is practical, compliance-focused, and designed by industry pros who've actually been on the tools. Learn at your own pace, get your certificate instantly, and stay compliant without the stress. Check out the full course list now at southwellsolartraining.com.au and get your CPD the easy way.